The ballroom shimmered like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, spilling golden light over rows of white roses and silk-covered chairs. The air smelled of perfume and fresh flowers. Soft violin music floated gently above the sound of quiet laughter. It was beautiful. Too beautiful. Amara sat in the third row, her back straight, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Her nails pressed into her skin, but she didn't move. She barely breathed. At the end of the aisle stood Daniel, her ex-husband. He looked calm, proud, handsome in his tailored black suit. His hair was neatly styled, his posture confident. He looked exactly the way he had on their wedding day 3 years ago. Only this time he wasn't waiting for her. The music changed. Everyone turned toward the grand entrance. And there she was, Vanessa, Amara's younger sister. She stepped forward in a flowing white gown that sparkled under the lights. Her veil trailed behind her like mist. Her lips curved into a glowing smile as she locked eyes with Daniel. The room sighed in admiration. Amara felt something inside her chest crack. Whispers began floating through the air. Isn't that her sister? I can't believe she came. That must be humiliating. Poor thing. Some voices were soft with pity. Others carried quiet judgment. A few held hidden amusement. Amara heard them all. Each whisper felt like a needle pressing into her skin. She kept her face still. She would not cry. She would not give anyone the satisfaction of seeing her fall apart. Vanessa walked slowly down the aisle. Every step was careful and graceful, like she was floating. She looked radiant, victorious. For a split second, Vanessa's eyes flickered toward Amara. Their gazes met. Vanessa didn't look guilty. She didn't look ashamed. She looked proud. Amara's stomach twisted. Flashbacks hit her without warning. Her own wedding day. Daniel holding her hands at the altar. Vanessa standing beside her as maid of honor, smiling brightly. That same bright smile. The memory burned. The minister began to speak, but the words blurred together. Amara couldn't focus. Her mind replayed moments she had tried so hard to forget. Late nights waiting for Daniel to come home. The first time she noticed him pulling away. The night she found those messages on his phone. Her sister's name glowing on the screen. Her breath grew shallow. The guests laughed softly at something the minister said. Amara didn't know what it was. She only knew she felt like she was watching her own life being erased. Daniel repeated his vows. Promises. Commitment. Forever. He had once said those same words to her. Her fingers trembled, but she locked them together tighter. Stay strong. Do not break here. Vanessa spoke next. Her voice was clear and steady. She sounded happy. Certain. When Daniel slid the ring onto Vanessa's finger, the diamond flashed under the chandelier lights. Amara felt her vision blur. When they kissed, the room exploded with applause. Cheers. Clapping. Celebration. It sounded distant, like she was underwater. In that moment, something inside her died. Not love. Not even anger. Hope. Hope that maybe this had all been a mistake. Hope that maybe he would look at her one last time with regret. He didn't. They turned toward the crowd, smiling, holding hands. Victorious. Amara slowly stood up. No one noticed at first. Everyone was too busy celebrating. She walked down the side aisle quietly, her heels barely making a sound against the polished floor. A few heads turned. More whispers followed. Where is she going? She shouldn't have come. I feel so bad for her. She didn't stop. She didn't look back. The large ballroom doors opened and a rush of cool air hit her face. Outside the sky was dark. Clouds had gathered while the ceremony took place. As soon as she stepped onto the stone stairs, rain began to fall. At first it was light, then heavier. Within seconds her dress clung to her skin. Her hair became soaked. Her mascara began to run. She didn't run for shelter. She didn't cover her face. She walked forward slowly, each step heavy but steady. The music from inside the ballroom faded behind her. The laughter. The celebration. The life she once had. Gone. The rain poured harder, mixing with the tears she could no longer hold back. She wrapped her arms around herself, not from the cold, but from the emptiness spreading through her chest. Losing him felt like losing a future she had built piece by piece. Losing her sister felt like losing part of her past. It felt like death. But deep inside the pain, beneath the humiliation, beneath the shame, a tiny voice whispered something she could barely hear. Something has ended, something else can begin. She didn't know what that beginning would look like. She didn't know how long it would take. All she knew was that she was walking away. Not screaming. Not begging. Not fighting. Walking. into the rain, into the unknown. And though her heart was shattered, she kept moving forward. Because sometimes when everything breaks, that is where rebuilding begins. Long before the wedding, long before Daniel, before betrayal had a name, there were just two little girls sharing a bedroom. Amara was the older one, quiet, careful, responsible. Vanessa was younger by 2 years, bright, loud, full of laughter. From the outside they looked close. They wore matching dresses. They braided each other's hair. They whispered secrets before bed. But even as children, something invisible lived between them. A quiet competition. Whenever guests visited their home, it always started the same way. "Oh, Vanessa is so beautiful. Look at those eyes. She will break many hearts one day." Vanessa would giggle and hide her face shyly, even though she loved every word. Then someone would look at Amara and say, "And you're such a strong girl. So mature." Strong, mature, responsible. Amara learned early that those words meant she was expected to handle everything on her own. If Vanessa cried, their mother rushed to comfort her. If Amara cried, she was told, "You're the older one. Be understanding." And so she did. She helped with chores without being asked. She gave Vanessa the bigger piece of cake. She defended her at school. She became the steady one, the reliable one. But deep inside, she sometimes wished someone would look at her the way they looked at Vanessa. As they grew older, the difference became clearer. Vanessa loved attention. She joined dance clubs, beauty contests, school plays. She enjoyed applause. Amara loved books. She studied hard. She planned her future carefully. When Amara won academic awards, their parents were proud, but the celebration was quiet. When Vanessa won Most Beautiful Smile at school, there was a party. It wasn't intentional cruelty. But children notice patterns. Vanessa noticed that beauty brought praise. Amara noticed that effort brought silence. And slowly jealousy took root, not in Amara but in Vanessa. Because no matter how much attention Vanessa received, there was one thing she could not stand. Amara's stability. Amara always seemed grounded, sure of who she was. She didn't need applause to feel valuable. And that bothered Vanessa. Whenever Amara achieved something important, a scholarship, a leadership role, Vanessa would find a way to compete. She would suddenly chase a new goal, or steal the spotlight with a dramatic story, or remind everyone how admired she was. It always looked playful, like normal sister rivalry. But under the smiles, something darker was growing. Then came university. Amara met Daniel in her second year. He wasn't the loudest guy in class. He wasn't the richest either. But he was ambitious, driven. He had big dreams and kind eyes. He admired Amara's discipline. He said he loved how calm she was, how steady, how she made him feel focused. For the first time, Amara felt chosen. Not because she was strong, not because she was responsible, but because she was enough. When she brought Daniel home to meet her family, Vanessa welcomed him with a bright smile. Too bright. She asked him about his goals. She laughed at his jokes. She touched his arm when she spoke. Amara noticed, but she pushed the feeling aside. That's just Vanessa, she told herself. She's friendly with everyone. Daniel didn't seem uncomfortable. He even joked easily with Vanessa. But something in Vanessa's eyes had changed. It wasn't just friendliness. It was assessment. Like she was studying him. Like she was measuring something. Months later, when Daniel proposed, Amara cried with joy. She called Vanessa first. Vanessa screamed with excitement and demanded to see the ring. That evening, the family gathered for dinner. Laughter filled the house. Everyone admired the diamond on Amara's finger. Vanessa asked to hold her hand. She examined the ring closely under the light. The diamond sparkled beautifully. Vanessa's smile lingered. Her fingers brushed over the stone slowly. She said all the right words. She congratulated her sister. She hugged her tightly. But when Amara pulled back, she noticed something strange. Vanessa's eyes weren't warm. They were sharp, focused, as if she wasn't admiring the ring. As if she was calculating its value. That night, when everyone had gone to sleep, Vanessa stood alone in front of the mirror. She imagined herself in white. And somewhere deep inside her heart, a quiet thought whispered, "Why her, and not me?" The rivalry that once seemed harmless began to take shape. Not loud, not obvious, but patient, waiting. And Amara, trusting and unaware, walked forward into her future, not knowing her greatest threat was smiling right beside her. The first year of Amara and Daniel's marriage was filled with hope. They did not have much money, but they had plans. Big ones. They rented a small apartment with thin walls and a leaking kitchen sink. The couch was secondhand. The dining table had scratches on it. But every night they sat across from each other and talked about the future. Daniel wanted to build his own company, a tech startup. He believed it would change everything for them. Amara believed in him. When Daniel's savings ran low, Amara picked up extra shifts at work. She worked during the day at her office job, then tutored students in the evenings. Some nights she came home exhausted, her feet aching, her head pounding. But she smiled anyway. This is temporary, she told herself. One day it will all pay off. Daniel often thanked her in the beginning. He promised he would make her proud. And for a while it felt like a partnership. Then Vanessa started visiting more often. At first it seemed innocent. She brought food. She laughed loudly in their small living room. She teased Daniel playfully and said she admired his ambition. Amara felt proud that her sister supported her husband. But slowly things began to shift. Vanessa started staying longer. She would show up when Amara was still at work. She would sit with Daniel for hours talking about dreams and risks and living boldly. Sometimes Amara would walk in and feel like she had interrupted something. The room would go quiet for a second too long. Vanessa began making small comments. She would mention how tired Daniel looked. She would joke that Amara was becoming a corporate robot. She would say men don't like feeling pressured. Daniel laughed at first. But after a while he stopped defending Amara. He started agreeing. At night he grew quieter. He spent more time on his phone. When Amara asked if something was wrong, he said he was just stressed. She believed him. Because she wanted to. Weeks turned into months. The warmth between them began to fade. Daniel stopped sharing his ideas with her. He stopped asking about her day. When she tried to plan simple dates, he said he was too busy. Amara blamed herself. Maybe she was too focused on work. Maybe she wasn't exciting enough. Maybe she had become boring. Vanessa's words echoed in her mind. One night everything changed. Daniel was in the shower when his phone lit up on the coffee table. Amara wasn't trying to snoop. But the name on the screen froze her. Vanessa. Her heart began to pound. She stared at the phone as another message appeared. And another. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. The screen unlocked easily. The messages were not innocent. They were personal, emotional, intimate. There were inside jokes, complaints about her, conversations that crossed lines no sister should ever cross. Amara felt like the floor had disappeared beneath her. Her chest tightened. Her ears rang. The bathroom door opened. Daniel saw the phone in her hand. He knew. The confrontation that followed was loud, painful, and messy. Tears streamed down Amara's face. Her voice broke as she demanded the truth. Daniel tried to deny it at first. Then he grew defensive. Then silent. Finally he admitted it. He had feelings for Vanessa. He said it had just happened. That he hadn't planned it. That he didn't mean to hurt her. Those words felt like knives. Amara demanded to know how long. Long enough. Vanessa didn't deny it either when confronted. Instead, she stood tall, almost fearless. She said Daniel deserved someone who understood him better. Someone more fun. Someone less serious. And then she said the words that shattered Amara completely. She told her sister that she was never right for him. It wasn't just betrayal. It was comparison. It was competition. And Vanessa believed she had won. Divorce followed quickly after. Daniel moved out. The apartment felt too quiet. Too empty. But the pain didn't stop there. When the family found out, reactions were divided, but not in Amara's favor. Some relatives said relationships are complicated. Others suggested Amara should have been more attentive. Her parents were disappointed, but their disappointment felt aimed at her. As if she had failed to keep her husband. Vanessa and Daniel stopped hiding their relationship. They appeared together at family events. They posted photos online. They laughed in public. As if nothing had been destroyed to create their happiness. Amara stopped attending gatherings. She stopped answering calls. The woman who had worked 2 jobs to build a future now felt like she had built it for someone else. Her husband was gone. Her sister was gone. And the life she believed in had cracked beyond repair. She had trusted both of them. And both had chosen each other. Alone in her small apartment, surrounded by memories, Amara realized something painful. The betrayal was not sudden. It had been growing quietly. Right in front of her. And she had never seen it coming. The news spread faster than Amara expected. In a matter of days, everyone seemed to know. Neighbors whispered when she walked past. Old friends suddenly became distant. Even people who barely spoke to her before now looked at her with curiosity. Divorce was painful. But being replaced by your own sister? That was humiliation. Social media made it worse. Vanessa posted smiling photos with Daniel, romantic dinners, weekend trips, captions about finding true love and following your heart. Amara stopped scrolling after the first week. Every picture felt like salt on an open wound. Mutual friends slowly chose sides. Some said they didn't want drama. Some said they were staying neutral. But neutral often meant disappearing. Her phone became silent. The house became quiet. And the silence was heavy. At family gatherings, the tension was unbearable. If Amara showed up, conversations died. People avoided eye contact. Some offered fake sympathy. Others offered advice she never asked for. You should have fought harder. Men need attention. Maybe you focused too much on work. Even her parents, though not cruel, were distant. They didn't defend Vanessa openly. But they didn't defend Amara either. Their silence hurt more than words. One evening, her mother said softly, "Marriage takes effort from a woman." That sentence echoed in Amara's mind for days. As if the failure belonged only to her. As if betrayal was her responsibility. At night, sleep refused to come. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of her marriage. Every argument. Every missed sign. Every time Vanessa had laughed too loudly at Daniel's jokes. She began questioning herself. Was she too serious? Too focused? Too plain? Not exciting enough? Her confidence began to crumble. One rainy evening the weight became too much. The apartment was dark. Only a small lamp glowed in the corner. Amara stood in the living room, staring at the wall covered in wedding photos. There she was in white, smiling at Daniel. There was Vanessa standing beside her, holding her bouquet. It felt like a cruel joke. Her hands shook as she stepped forward. She took down the first frame. Then another. Then another. With each photo removed, her chest tightened. By the time she reached the last one, the picture of her and Daniel cutting their wedding cake, her vision blurred with tears. She clutched the frame tightly. For a moment she almost placed it back. Almost pretended none of this had happened. But she didn't. She pulled it down. The wall was bare now. Empty. Like her heart. She slid down to the floor, her back against the couch, the frames scattered around her. And for the first time since the divorce, she didn't try to stay strong. She cried. Not quietly. Not politely. She cried with deep, shaking sobs that came from somewhere she had been holding in for months. She cried for her marriage. She cried for her sister. She cried for the version of herself who believed love was safe. Hours passed before the tears slowed. When the room grew silent again, something inside her felt different. Not healed. Not better. But tired of hurting. The next morning, she opened her laptop to distract herself with work. An email caught her eye. It was from a company she had interviewed with months ago, before everything fell apart. They were offering her a higher position. In another city. A fresh start. She stared at the screen for a long time. Leaving meant distance. Leaving meant escape. Leaving meant admitting this chapter was truly over. But staying meant daily reminders. Daily whispers. Daily humiliation. She walked to the window and looked out at the gray sky. This city held too many memories. Too much pain. She picked up her phone and dialed the number in the email. Her voice was steady when she accepted the offer. That night she packed quietly. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just carefully. She folded clothes into a suitcase. She boxed up the remaining memories. She deleted old photos from her phone. With every item packed, the decision felt more real. On the day of her flight, no one came to see her off. She didn't tell many people she was leaving. At the airport, surrounded by strangers, she felt small but strangely calm. When the plane lifted off the ground, she looked down at the city growing smaller beneath the clouds. Tears slipped down her face again, but this time they weren't only from pain. They were from courage. Her heart was still broken. Her trust was still damaged. But she had chosen herself. Rock bottom had forced her to see something clearly. She stayed, she would drown. She left, she might survive. And survival was enough for now. As the plane disappeared into the sky, Amara closed her eyes. She didn't know what waited for her in the new city. But for the first time in a long time, she was moving towards something. Not away. The new city did not welcome Amara with fireworks or miracles. It welcomed her with noise. Traffic that never seemed to stop. Tall buildings that touched the sky. Strangers who walked fast and never looked back. It was overwhelming, but it was also freeing. No one here knew her story. No one whispered when she entered a room. No one looked at her with pity. She was just another woman starting over. Her new apartment was small but clean. The windows faced the city skyline. At night, the lights shimmered like stars. The first few weeks were hard. She went to work. She came home. She unpacked slowly. She avoided thinking too much. But work became her anchor. Her new position demanded focus, leadership, confidence. At first, she doubted herself. The old questions still lingered. Am I enough? But something unexpected happened. Her ideas were respected. Her decisions were valued. Her boss praised her strategy during meetings. Her team listened when she spoke. No one called her too serious. No one told her she was too much. For the first time in a long time, her strength felt like an advantage, not a flaw. Months passed. Her shoulders straightened. Her voice grew firmer. She stopped apologizing for taking space. She even began therapy. Not because she was weak, but because she was tired of carrying pain alone. In those quiet sessions, she unpacked her hurt piece by piece. She spoke about betrayal, about childhood expectations, about always being the strong one. Some days she cried. Some days she sat in silence. But slowly she began understanding something powerful. Daniel leaving did not mean she was unlovable. Vanessa choosing him did not mean she was less. It meant they made choices. And those choices did not define her worth. With this understanding came change. She started saying no when she was overwhelmed. She stopped answering calls that drained her. She joined a weekend yoga class. She cut her hair shorter. Not dramatically. Just enough to feel different. Stronger. She replaced her old wardrobe with simple, elegant pieces that made her feel confident. Not flashy. Not for attention. For herself. She made new friends at work. Women who admired her focus. Who invited her to brunch. Who laughed loudly and encouraged her to laugh too. For the first time in years, she began smiling without forcing it. The shift was slow. But it was real. She was no longer just surviving. She was rebuilding. One evening, her company hosted a charity gala. Amara almost skipped it. Large events still made her uneasy. But she forced herself to go. The ballroom was grand, filled with business leaders and investors. Conversations buzzed around her. Waiters moved gracefully between guests. She stood near a display table, reading about the charity project her company supported. That's the most thoughtful expression I've seen tonight. The voice was calm. She turned. The man standing beside her was tall, well-dressed, but not showy. His eyes were observant, steady. This was Alexander Kane. A name she had heard whispered during meetings. A billionaire CEO. But he didn't carry himself like someone trying to impress. He carried himself like someone who had already proven himself. Instead of commenting on her appearance, he asked her opinion about the charity's long-term impact. It surprised her. Most men at events like this commented on dresses or smiles. He wanted her thoughts. She answered honestly. They spoke for several minutes. About business. About leadership. About responsibility. He listened carefully when she spoke. He didn't interrupt. He didn't compete. When she mentioned managing a difficult project transition, he didn't offer advice. He asked how she handled it. That small detail meant more than she expected. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen for her mind. Not her beauty. Not her pain. Not her past. Just her. Before leaving, he thanked her for the conversation. No flirting. No pressure. Just respect. As she drove home that night, she felt something she had not felt in years. Curiosity. Not about him. About possibility. But she guarded her heart carefully. She had learned how quickly things could break. Alexander sent a polite message the next day, inviting her for coffee to continue their discussion about the charity initiative. It felt professional. Safe. She hesitated. Then agreed. Not because he was rich. Not because he was powerful. But because for the first time, stepping forward did not feel like walking into danger. It felt like stepping into something unknown, but steady. As she prepared for that coffee meeting, she looked at herself in the mirror. She no longer saw the woman who walked into the rain months ago. She saw someone rebuilding brick by brick. Stronger. Wiser. Careful. And though her heart still carried scars, it was no longer shattered. It was healing. And healing, she realized, is not loud. It is quiet. It is choosing yourself every day. And for the first time, Amara wasn't trying to prove anything to anyone. She was simply becoming the woman she was meant to be. Amara expected coffee with Alexander Kane to feel intimidating. It didn't. He chose a quiet cafe instead of a luxury restaurant. No photographers. No bodyguards standing too close. Just a simple table near a window. He arrived on time. That alone surprised her. Powerful men, she had learned, often expected others to wait. Alexander did not. Their first meeting lasted 2 hours. They spoke about business at first, about leadership, about risk, about building something from nothing. Alexander shared parts of his story slowly. He had not been born rich. His father worked long hours in a small factory. His mother raised him with strict values: honesty, loyalty, hard work. When she passed away during his early 20s, he said it changed him forever. Loss had taught him 2 things: time is short and loyalty matters. He built his company step by step. Failed twice. Almost gave up once. But he didn't. Amara listened carefully. There was no arrogance in his voice. Only quiet strength. Over the next few weeks, coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long evening walks. Their conversations never felt forced. They debated ideas. They laughed about small things. They shared stories about childhood. Alexander never tried to impress her with money. He didn't mention his private jet or his properties unless she asked. Instead, he asked about her goals, her dreams, her fears. And that was the part that scared her. Because being seen deeply meant being vulnerable. One night, as they walked along the river under city lights, Alexander gently asked about her past. She hesitated. Her story still felt raw. But something about his steady presence made it easier to speak. So she told him. Not dramatically. Not angrily. She spoke about her marriage. About working 2 jobs. About trusting her sister. About the messages on the phone. About the wedding she had attended in silence. She expected pity. She expected awkward silence. Instead, Alexander looked at her with something else. Respect. He told her betrayal says more about the betrayer than the betrayed. He told her resilience is rare. He did not insult Daniel. He did not criticize Vanessa. He focused on her strength. That night, something inside her shifted. For the first time, she did not feel like a victim telling her story. She felt like a survivor owning it. Still, fear lingered. Whenever Alexander took longer than usual to reply to a message, her chest tightened. Whenever he mentioned a female colleague, her mind tried to imagine danger. Trauma leaves shadows. But Alexander noticed her hesitation. Not with frustration. With patience. He showed consistency in small ways. He called when he said he would. He introduced her to his closest friends without secrecy. He never hid his phone. He respected her work schedule. He never made her feel guilty for being ambitious. Weeks became months. The relationship grew quietly, steadily. No drama. No mind games. Just mutual effort. One evening, they attended a small fundraiser together. Not as a public announcement, just as 2 people supporting a cause. When a reporter tried to ask about their relationship, Alexander politely declined to comment and shifted the focus back to the charity. That moment mattered to Amara. He wasn't using her as a headline. He was protecting what they were building. Later that night, on his balcony overlooking the city, they stood side by side in comfortable silence. The air was cool. The skyline glittered. Alexander turned to her, his expression serious but calm. He spoke about partnership. About choosing someone every day. About building something based on trust. He didn't kneel. He didn't make a dramatic speech. Instead, he took her hands and made a quiet promise. To always choose honesty over pride, communication over silence, loyalty over ego. It wasn't flashy. It was sincere. Tears filled Amara's eyes. Not from sadness but from relief. Relief that love did not have to feel like a competition. Relief that it did not have to feel uncertain. Months later, during a private weekend getaway to a peaceful mountain retreat, Alexander proposed. There were no cameras. No crowd. Just trees, fresh air, and quiet. He told her he didn't need a perfect woman. He needed a strong one. He needed someone who understood pain and still chose kindness. He needed her. When he opened the ring box, her heart pounded. Not from fear, but from clarity. This time she was not saying yes because she felt lucky. She was saying yes because she felt safe. Safe to be herself. Safe to be imperfect. Safe to trust again. She looked at him carefully. Not at his wealth. Not at his status. But at the steadiness in his eyes. And she said yes. Not because he was a billionaire. But because he was consistent. Because he was kind. Because he made love feel peaceful instead of painful. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, she realized something powerful. The love she lost had been loud and fragile. The love she found was quiet and strong. And for the first time she understood. Real wealth isn't money. It's emotional security. And she had finally found it. While Amara's life was slowly rising, Vanessa's was beginning to crack. At first, everything had seemed perfect. Vanessa and Daniel enjoyed the attention. They posted smiling photos, romantic captions, fancy dinners they could barely afford. For a while, the excitement of winning felt thrilling. Vanessa had convinced herself she had chosen passion over stability, that she had followed her heart. But passion fades when bills pile up. Daniel's startup began struggling. Investors pulled out. Promises he once made started sounding unrealistic. He spent long nights staring at his laptop, frustrated and tense. The confidence that once attracted Vanessa slowly turned into insecurity. Arguments started small. Money, deadlines, stress. But soon they became personal. Vanessa accused him of lacking ambition. Daniel accused her of pressuring him. Trust became fragile. If he could betray Amara, what stopped him from betraying her too? That thought haunted Vanessa at night. She began checking his phone when he wasn't looking. She questioned female co-workers. She watched his behavior carefully. The same suspicion that once destroyed her sister's marriage now lived inside her own. Community whispers changed tone. At first, people admired their bold love story. Now the admiration turned into quiet doubt. Was it worth it? They seemed stressed. Maybe karma is real. Vanessa pretended not to hear. But she heard everything. Their parents, once silent, now seemed uneasy. They worried about Daniel's unstable income. They avoided discussing the tension. The glow around Vanessa's victory began to dim. Then one evening, alone in their apartment, Vanessa scrolled through her phone. She wasn't searching for anything specific. But her fingers froze when she saw it. An announcement. Amara. Smiling. Standing beside a tall, confident man. The headline mentioned his name, Alexander Kane, a billionaire CEO. The caption read, "Engaged to the woman who inspires me every day." Vanessa's breath caught. She zoomed into the photo. Amara looked different, stronger, calmer, happier. Not broken, not bitter, happy. A feeling she didn't expect rose inside her. Not anger, not even jealousy at first. So, how had Amara recovered so completely? How had she moved forward without begging, without fighting? Vanessa felt something twist inside her chest. She had believed she won. She had believed taking Daniel proved something. But staring at that photo, she realized something painful. She hadn't wanted Daniel. She had wanted to win. To feel chosen. To feel superior. And now, Daniel sat across the room, frustrated, buried in business problems. The spark that once excited her now felt exhausting. Their arguments grew louder over the next weeks. Daniel accused her of constantly criticizing him. Vanessa accused him of not being the man she thought he was. One night, in the middle of another heated fight, Daniel said something that froze her. He told her she was never satisfied. That she always needed to compete. That she didn't love him the way she thought she did. The words hit harder than she expected. Because deep down she knew there was truth in them. Soon after, Daniel's business officially collapsed. Debt followed. Stress consumed him. The charming, ambitious man she once admired now seemed lost. And with that loss came blame. He blamed her for distracting him. She blamed him for failing. Their marriage, built on betrayal, began to crumble under pressure. Eventually, silence replaced arguments. Cold silence. Separate rooms. Separate lives under the same roof. And one morning, Daniel packed a suitcase. No dramatic goodbye. No tears. Just exhaustion. He left. Vanessa stood in the doorway as he walked away. This time she was the one being left behind. The quiet that followed felt heavier than she expected. She sat alone in the apartment, staring at the same phone that once carried secret messages. Now it carried reminders of her sister's engagement, of stability, of peace. Vanessa finally understood something she had refused to see for years. She hadn't destroyed Amara's life. She had only delayed her own growth. And in trying to take what wasn't hers, she had built something fragile. Something that could not survive real pressure. For the first time, regret replaced pride. And the victory she once celebrated felt hollow. Very hollow. The message came on a quiet Tuesday evening. Amara had just returned home from work. She kicked off her heels and placed her bag gently on the kitchen counter. The apartment was calm, warm, peaceful. Her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it. But when she glanced at the screen, her breath slowed. Vanessa. The name she had trained herself not to react to. For a moment, old memories tried to rise. The wedding. The whispers. The humiliation. But the pain did not stab the way it once did. It only echoed faintly. The message was simple. Can we talk? 3 words. So small. So heavy. Amara stared at the screen for a long time. Part of her wanted to delete it. Part of her wanted to finally ask every question she had buried. After several minutes, she typed back one sentence. Tomorrow. Public place. She didn't ask why. She didn't ask what for. She didn't owe explanations anymore. The next afternoon, they met at a quiet cafe. Neutral ground. Vanessa was already there when Amara arrived. She looked different. Still beautiful but tired. The glow she once carried had dimmed. Her posture wasn't as confident. For a second, neither sister spoke. Years of shared childhood memories stood silently between them. Amara sat down calmly. She noticed something surprising inside herself. She wasn't shaking. She wasn't angry. She was steady. Vanessa tried to speak first, but her voice came out uncertain. She started by explaining the marriage had ended, that things had fallen apart, that Daniel had left. Amara listened without interrupting. Vanessa's words spilled out faster now. She said it wasn't supposed to happen that way. She said she never meant for things to go so far. But as she spoke, the excuses began to fall apart. Finally, her voice cracked. She admitted the truth. She had been jealous. Jealous of Amara's stability. Jealous of her discipline. Jealous that someone chose her first. Taking Daniel had felt like proof. Proof that she could win. Proof that she was better. But sitting across from her sister now, Vanessa looked smaller. She admitted that winning hadn't brought happiness. It had only brought temporary excitement. And then emptiness. Tears slipped down Vanessa's face, not dramatic tears but quiet ones. She said she didn't know how to fix what she had broken. Silence filled the space between them. Amara watched her carefully. This was the moment she once imagined many times. The moment where she could release all her anger. The moment to remind Vanessa of every tear she had cried. But something had changed. The pain that once controlled her no longer did. She spoke calmly. She told Vanessa the betrayal had broken her. Not just her marriage but her trust. She told her she had questioned her own worth for months. But she also told her something else. That losing Daniel had forced her to find herself. That the pain had pushed her to grow. That she was no longer the woman who walked out of that wedding in the rain. Vanessa listened, eyes lowered. Amara did not raise her voice. She did not insult her. She did not seek revenge. Instead, she set boundaries. She told Vanessa forgiveness was possible. But trust would take time. She would not pretend everything was normal. She would not reopen her heart blindly. Forgiveness did not mean forgetting. It meant freeing herself from carrying bitterness. Vanessa nodded slowly. For the first time in their lives, there was no competition in her eyes. Only regret. As they stood to leave, something unexpected happened inside Amara. She realized she felt no envy. No desire to prove herself. No need to compare. The weight she had carried for years, of always being measured against her sister, was gone. She walked toward the door feeling lighter. Not because her sister apologized, but because she no longer needed validation. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky was soft and golden. Vanessa remained inside the cafe for a few seconds longer. Amara stepped into the evening air. She did not look back. This time, when she walked away, it wasn't into rain or heartbreak. It was into peace. And peace felt stronger than revenge ever could. The past no longer haunted Amara. It informed her. It strengthened her. But it no longer controlled her. In the months following her meeting with Vanessa, something inside Amara felt settled. Not triumphant. Not smug. Just settled. Alexander noticed it. He had been patient from the beginning. He never pressured her to open up about the betrayal. He never asked invasive questions about Daniel. Instead, he listened when she chose to speak. And when she didn't, he respected her silence. Their relationship deepened in quiet ways. Not through dramatic declarations, but through consistency. Morning coffee prepared exactly how she liked it. Unexpected notes left on her desk. Late-night conversations about dreams, fears, childhood memories. For the first time, Amara experienced love that felt steady instead of competitive. Alexander wasn't trying to outshine anyone. He wasn't trying to win her. He simply chose her. And that choice was clear every single day. But love after betrayal carries shadows. There were moments Amara still hesitated. Moments she wondered if stability could suddenly disappear again. Moments she feared history repeating itself. Instead of hiding those fears, she faced them. One evening, sitting across from Alexander in their living room, she finally shared everything. The wedding humiliation. The months of self-doubt. The confrontation with Vanessa. She expected pity. Instead, she received something stronger. Respect. Alexander told her he admired her resilience. That surviving betrayal without becoming bitter was rare. That building herself back up showed more strength than wealth ever could. He reassured her not with promises of perfection, but with transparency. His schedule was open to her. His intentions were clear. His commitment was deliberate. Slowly, trust replaced fear. And when Alexander proposed, this time in private, away from cameras, away from spectacle, it felt different from her first engagement. There was no need to prove anything. No grand audience. Just two people standing on solid ground. Amara said yes, not because she needed validation, but because she felt safe. The engagement announcement made headlines. People who once whispered about her downfall now praised her transformation. She upgraded. She won in the end. But Amara didn't see it that way. This wasn't about upgrading. This wasn't about revenge. It was about alignment. Alexander's wealth was impressive, but it wasn't what healed her. What healed her was how he treated waiters with respect. How he remembered small details about her childhood stories. How he stood beside her, not in front of her, not above her. Beside her. Their wedding planning reflected that shift. Intimate. Elegant. Meaningful. Not extravagant for show, but intentional in every detail. Meanwhile, Vanessa watched quietly from a distance. She had reached out a few times after their cafe meeting. Short messages. Careful conversations. No pressure. Slow rebuilding. Amara allowed it, but carefully. Healing did not mean reopening wounds carelessly. On the day of Amara's second wedding, the atmosphere felt entirely different from the first. There were no whispers. No tension. No competition in the room. Only warmth. When Amara walked down the aisle, she did not feel like a woman trying to reclaim dignity. She felt like a woman stepping into the life she had built herself. And when she saw Alexander waiting for her, eyes steady and certain, she understood something profound. The greatest revenge is not destruction. It is transformation. Vanessa attended quietly. She did not try to stand out. She did not demand attention. She simply watched her sister glow. And for the first time, there was no jealousy in her heart. Only acceptance. After the ceremony, as guests celebrated, Vanessa approached Amara gently. She didn't make a speech. She didn't attempt emotional theatrics. She simply hugged her sister. It wasn't a perfect hug. It wasn't cinematic. But it was honest. Two women who had hurt each other in different ways. Two women who had learned different lessons. And as the music played and laughter filled the air, Amara realized something powerful. Her sister hadn't stolen her future. She had unknowingly redirected it. If Daniel had never betrayed her, she might have settled. If the humiliation had never happened, she might have never discovered her strength. Pain had introduced her to clarity. And clarity had introduced her to peace. That night, as Amara and Alexander drove away from the celebration, city lights reflecting across the windshield, she looked ahead, not back. The road in front of her was wide open. And this time she wasn't competing for happiness. She had become it. Years passed. Not in dramatic leaps, but in steady, meaningful growth. Amara's life with Alexander did not become perfect. It became real. They faced challenges like any couple. Demanding schedules. Public scrutiny. The weight that came with wealth and influence. But unlike her first marriage, difficulties were met with partnership, not blame. When problems arose, they sat at the same table. Not opposite sides. Amara built her own ventures alongside Alexander's empire. She invested in women-led businesses. She funded programs for young girls who felt overshadowed or overlooked. Girls who grew up constantly compared to others. She never spoke publicly about her betrayal. She didn't need to. Her life told the story. Confidence replaced insecurity. Purpose replaced competition. Peace replaced bitterness. And the world noticed. Interviews described her as poised, grounded, resilient. But only she knew the quiet nights she once cried herself to sleep. Only she remembered the humiliation that once felt unbearable. The difference now was simple. She no longer defined herself by what she lost. She defined herself by what she built. Vanessa's life also moved forward, but differently. After her divorce from Daniel, she had been forced to confront uncomfortable truths about herself. For the first time she lived alone. No spotlight. No rivalry. No one to compete with. Just silence. In that silence, she discovered things she had buried for years. Her need for validation. Her fear of being second. Her habit of measuring her worth against her sister's achievements. Therapy became part of her routine. So did humility. She began rebuilding, not socially but internally. Slowly she found work she enjoyed. Smaller. Less glamorous. But honest. She stopped chasing admiration. She started chasing growth. Her relationship with Amara improved gradually. Not the same as childhood. Not effortlessly close. But respectful. Mature. They met on holidays. They called occasionally. They no longer compared. And that alone was progress. One afternoon years later, Vanessa visited Amara's home. It was beautiful, but not intimidating. Warm laughter echoed from the garden. Amara stood near a fountain, speaking to a group of young women she mentored. She was radiant, not because of jewelry or designer clothes, but because she looked fulfilled. Vanessa watched quietly. There was no jealousy now, only recognition. She had once believed stealing Daniel was a victory, but watching her sister now, she understood something deeper. Amara's success wasn't the billionaire husband. It wasn't the mansion. It wasn't the headlines. It was the transformation. She had turned betrayal into fuel, humiliation into humility, pain into purpose. Later that evening, as the sisters sat together watching the sunset, Vanessa finally said something honest. She admitted that losing Daniel had been the consequence she needed. It forced her to confront herself. Amara listened gently. She didn't gloat. She didn't say, "I told you so." She simply acknowledged that life teaches everyone differently. Some lessons come softly. Others come through heartbreak. But both can lead to growth, if accepted. As the sky darkened and city lights flickered in the distance, Amara reflected quietly. Years ago she had imagined revenge. She had imagined public triumph. She had imagined her sister begging while she rose dramatically. But reality had been quieter, more powerful. Her last laugh wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. It wasn't about watching Vanessa suffer. It was about reaching a place where the betrayal no longer mattered. Where she could sit beside the woman who once broke her heart and feel nothing but calm. True victory, she realized, isn't taking something back. It's becoming so whole that nothing taken can diminish you. Daniel became a distant memory. A chapter. Not the story. Vanessa became a lesson. Not an enemy. Alexander remained her partner. Not a trophy. And Amara? She became her own proof. Proof that betrayal does not define destiny. Proof that comparison is a prison. Proof that grace outlives revenge. The world might say she married a billionaire instead. But the real fortune she gained was herself. And that was the last laugh.